Albert Square has seen its fair share of monsters. It has survived brutal gangsters like Phil Mitchell, cold-blooded killers like Lucas Johnson, and textbook psychopaths like Gray Atkins. But none of them match the sheer calculating malice of Janine Butcher. While others relied on physical violence, weapons, or physical intimidation, Janine used something far more dangerous: human emotion. She didn't need a gun. She didn't need muscle. She just needed to find your deepest insecurity, exploit your desperate need for love, and bleed you dry. From blackmailed businessmen to murdered husbands, her trail of destruction is unmatched across decades of television history. This is the ultimate, comprehensive anatomy of Walford's greatest manipulator. To understand how Janine became so utterly ruthless, you have to look at the wreckage of her childhood. As the daughter of the infamous Frank Butcher, Janine's entire early life was defined by abandonment, rejection, and severe instability. She watched her father walk in and out of her life, constantly putting his chaotic romantic entanglements ahead of his children. When Frank was around, he was deeply flawed. When he was gone, he left an empty void that Janine had to fill with raw survival instincts. Growing up in the shadow of more favored siblings and dealing with the public collapse of her family's finances and reputation hardened her. Janine realized early on that vulnerability was a weakness that others would exploit. Therefore, she decided to exploit it first. Her predatory instincts were first fully displayed when Terry Raymond took her in, out of genuine, pure-hearted kindness during a period of severe homelessness. Instead of showing gratitude, Janine saw an opening. She noticed Terry's deep, unresolved grief over his late daughter Tiffany. With terrifying calculation, Janine began to dress exactly like Tiffany, mimicking her style and mannerisms. She manipulated his paternal affection to rinse him for money, housing, and gifts, while methodically and purposefully ruining his external romantic relationships to ensure he remained entirely isolated and dependent on her company. Once she outgrew Terry, she turned her sights on one of the square's ultimate targets, Ian Beale. In 2002, Janine recognized Ian's desperate need for validation and control. She seduced him, slept with him, and immediately turned the encounter into a weapon. She blackmailed Ian, threatening to destroy his marriage to Laura Beale unless he paid her silence money. But Janine was never done with a target permanently. In 2009, she targeted Ian again with an even more elaborate scheme. Knowing his weaknesses had not changed, she secretly recorded a sexual encounter between them. She didn't just want a quick payout this time, she wanted power. She used that highly sensitive tape to blackmail Ian into signing over a high-value debt loan directly to the ruthless Archie Mitchell. Even the Square's supposedly tougher, more street-smart men were completely blind to her tactics. When Janine decided she wanted ownership of the lucrative Walford car lot, she didn't negotiate. She targeted Jack Branning. Recognizing that Jack could not be easily fooled by tears or seduction alone, she escalated her methods. She ruthlessly drugged his drink, rendering him helpless and completely destroying his cognitive functions. While he was incapacitated, she forced him into signing over the legal ownership of his business. To Janine, the men of Albert Square were never human beings with feelings, families, or rights. They were simply walking bank accounts waiting to be completely drained. As Janine grew older and more confident, her scams became significantly more elaborate and dangerous. She moved away from simple blackmail and transitioned into high-stakes marital warfare, where the marriage license essentially acted as a death warrant. Her first true, undisputed masterpiece of manipulation was her relationship with Barry Evans. Barry was a lonely, soft-hearted, incredibly naive buffoon who desperately wanted a loving family of his own. Janine saw him coming from a mile away. She manufactured a completely fraudulent romance, making Barry believe he had finally found the woman of his dreams. Once she had him hooked, she systematically isolated him from his family. She ground Barry's self-esteem down to absolutely zero, ensuring he felt entirely worthless without her approval. The true tragedy of Barry Evans wasn't just his sudden horrific death on that cold Scottish hillside on New Year's Day in 2004. The true horror was the psychological torture Janine inflicted upon him for an entire year leading up to that moment. She made him beg for her affection, treated him with open disgust behind closed doors, and forced him into a quick marriage solely to secure his inheritance. When Barry revealed on their honeymoon that he was actually broke, her rage turned lethal. When he tried to apologize and touch her during a walk on the cliffs, she shoved him away. As he rolled down the hill and lay dying, begging for help, she sat on a rock, checked her watch, and simply waited for him to stop breathing.